Welcome to Session 2 of Quality Assurance Common Sense. This is the second session of a 4-webinar series put on by the Tribal Air Monitoring Support Center, and we are part of ITEP. And the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium is represented by Chris Fish. And today we're going to talk about quality assurance for projects that don't involve making measurements with an instrument. So projects where you are taking a survey of concerns about air quality that are in your community, a project involving using questionnaires, or perhaps surveying homes for indoor air quality issues, you still have to apply QA principles and write a quality assurance project plan so that the results of your project are respected and you can use them towards your goals of meeting your environmental program's needs. Today on the line we have Chris Fish, and Chris is from the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium. The objective of today's training is that by the end of the session and by doing the homework that you will end up with what you need to know about quality assurance for information management. So people think, well, I'm not gathering data in terms of numbers, but you still are gathering data. It's in the form of information. Surveys, assessments, checklists of potential indoor air quality issues. In common sense terms, what is QA for such a project? And what parts of a quality assurance project plan are necessary? And then principles of data management for managing the information that you get. We will have homework for this session as well. I want to emphasize that with all our webinars and all our classes, these are very strict. There is no such thing as a dumb question zone. So whether you ask a question during the webinar or call us afterwards, anything is open. Please ask your question. The only dumb question is that question that you didn't ask. So we're going to talk about an example project. This project involves gathering information to find out possible sources of poor air quality and to educate the community. We've got two objectives. So document possible sources of poor air quality using a questionnaire, as well as educating ourselves about the sources of poor air quality in our community. And you want to make clear that these objectives drive the quality assurance that we do. Keep asking yourself, is what we're doing getting us to our goal? And as long as you keep asking yourself that and you document it in your written material, like your quality assurance project plan, or if you have procedures in those, you are applying solid QA principles. One of the most important things to remember is to be specific about your objectives. Your objectives will include some sort of boundary. So these are the questions that you would document in your QAPP. Before you jump into a QAPP and start writing the signature page and project description, it's really best to think about first the objectives of the project. Do you want the questionnaire to include information on residential issues such as wood smoke, as well as outdoor air, such as road dust or waste burning? Think about what the boundaries of your project are in terms of both like the physical land, the homes or buildings that you want information on, as well as like the types of issues that you want to gather information on. More objectives are more specific. So your goal for the number of completed questionnaires. Well, first of all, what's the definition of completed? More than half of the questions answered? Maybe you have specific questions that must be answered for it to be considered a complete questionnaire. And as you develop your questionnaire, you have to think about that. What's your goal for the number of public meetings? What's your goal for how many people attend these meetings? For example, our boundary is the boundary of our village, and this may or may not work for you depending upon where your community lives. Our target is homes only, so residences, maybe not schools, or maybe you do want to include schools and public buildings. Our questionnaire will gather information on indoor air quality only, perhaps. And then our goal is to obtain completed questionnaires from at least 75% of the homes. So these are examples of what specifically you would write in your quality assurance project plan. Now, completeness. For example, a completed questionnaire contains answers for at least the questions that are the minimum you need to use that questionnaire in a summary. So think about how you're going to summarize the information, and if you get a questionnaire back that has only some of the questions answered, can you use it? And then define completeness according to how you could use that questionnaire. So for example, the necessary items might be the address, how big the house is, how old it is, the heating source, the secondary heating source, in terms of perhaps multiple wood stoves or a pellet stove. Think about the other category. A lot of times every single question has a set of possible answers and then other. And try to minimize use of this other answer, because that'll make it hard for you to summarize. So really try to include all the possible answers that you can think of as check-offs or multiple choice answers, and try to minimize your use of that other category. For that public outreach goal, an example objective would be that our goal for the number of public meetings is 2. An initial public meeting to explain the project and a final meeting to explain the results. And our goal is to have at least 20 people at each meeting, for example. For the education goal, this is a little mushier, because how do you define people learning about indoor air quality? Well, perhaps you can be specific and say every home receives a 1-page description of what is dry wood, for example, to be burning wood efficiently. Every person at a public meeting takes away something about indoor air quality issues. And this is just a screenshot of a flyer that was used in the Bristol Bay Association. And thank you, Sue Flensburg, for providing this information. And this is just an example of a flyer. And this is in the course downloads folder that's on our website for this course. So you can't really say, well, I know that 15 people out of the 20 learned something about indoor air quality, but you can know that you at least gave away 15 of these flyers to the people, and you dropped off a flyer at every home explaining the project. Plan for success. Think ahead. You're going to be, at some point, like this young woman, standing up with a table of results that you've compiled the answers into various categories, and you're trying to explain it. You're trying to make sense of it. So think ahead and try to get as complete and useful information as possible. So for example, will you interview them, or will you drop it off and ask them to fill it out? Consistency and repeatability is the key to getting good results that you can summarize, which is what you're interested in. Results that you can summarize and that are accurate. The main question in terms of repeatability, and this is quality control, would somebody else filling out the questionnaire for the same home give the same answers? Ideally, yes. So if your questions are written in a really clear way, then that would be more likely. Think it through to the end. How will you ensure enough completeness of each questionnaire and the total number of these completed questionnaires? So will you go back and ask again? If you get questionnaires back that aren't complete, will you do that? Or will somebody else do that? Or will you drop it off again? Will you call them on the phone? Incentives for completion can be really little and really useful, the I voted stickers. Something like that, freebies, even little things that are something that people can take with them, perhaps with some reminders, even just a sticker or a flyer giving them information, is something to mark that they took the time out and completed this questionnaire. Hold your meetings in conjunction with other meetings or at a school where people are already going to be there, so that you can have as many people as possible hear your information. Serve food. And talk to important community members and get their input when planning. This is really, really important, because you need buy-in by the people that are respected in the community, and as soon as possible, get their buy-in to the project to help ensure success. So document your ideas in a QAPP. So this is where you write down all this stuff. And this is where a quality assurance project plan is useful, because it puts everything in one place. First of all, of the project description, how you will do the work, a schedule, the responsibilities of the people involved, objectives. Again, the definition of a complete questionnaire. For example, every questionnaire considered complete has at least questions number 1 through 6 answered, for example. Completeness for the project. So again, what would signify completeness? What would you be satisfied with? Also for the public meetings, what's considered the success for your 2 public meetings in the case of this example project?